Right, take us away.
Alrighty. Thanks, Adam. Good morning, everybody. Very exciting. We are to our second to last meeting with this board to finalize the low energy and carbon code via voting today. So everyone take a big deep breath. Make sure you've got your water. It's gonna be a bit of a I don't know, a process heavy meeting, but we'll make sure we get through it and do so in a way that's supportive of everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and um, we will go ahead and get going here. Um, Okay, so our agenda for the day. First, we will start by approving the meeting minutes from meeting 28, which was last week. And then we are going to spend about 15-20 minutes going through the final voting rules and processes. For those of you who were on the board when we did finalize the model electric and solar ready code, the voting procedures will be the exact same or very similar. For those of you who are new to the board, we will go through it in detail and we'll do a couple of practice votes so that everybody feels very comfortable with the technology and everyone feels set up for success for the remainder of our meeting. With whatever time is left after we get through the review of the process, we will start going one by one through our voting blocks and start doing our final voting on the low energy and carbon code. And then we'll wrap up a couple minutes early. We'll see how far we get in the voting today. And we have our final meeting on Friday to wrap up any voting that we don't finish today. Oh, I think I'm missing a slide, so I'll just do it here. First, we're going to approve the meeting minutes for meeting 28. So I will wait to see if there's a board motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Ron. All board members in favor of approving the meeting minutes for meeting 28, please say aye.
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 Wonderful. Any board members opposed to approving the meeting minutes for meeting 28, please say nay. Okay. Meeting minutes are unanimously approved. Thank you, board. So we are going to move now to reviewing the final vote process. So these slides are the exact same slides that I sent out to you all last week that go into detail on how we will conduct the voting today. So I'm going to go through these steps one at a time. There's a lot of information. I will take it slow. As you have questions, please raise your hand. I'm going to save questions until the very end of my process slides, just in case I happen to answer your question as I go through some of the process slides. But we will manage all questions once I get through these and take as much time as we need to make sure that those are answered. Okay, so the first thing we wanted to share about the voting rules for today. We are going to vote on each numbered voting block that was sent to the board in the voting blocks document. You'll see most of the voting blocks align with the amendment numbers within the low energy and carbon code draft. So, for example, as you see on the slide, vote 1 is for amendment number 1 for section C105. Vote 2 would be for amendment 2, section C107. Now, there are a couple cases, if you all spent some time in that voting block document, you may have realized there are a few cases where the amendment numbers didn't quite exactly sync up with the voting block numbers. So there are some non-standard voting blocks throughout the document. And where you'll find those is that we had some amendments that were very long and covered multiple pages. And so in that case, where it made sense, those amendments were broken into multiple voting blocks. Alternatively, there were some amendments that covered the same topic or were similar edits in a similar section. And in those cases, you may have noticed some of those votes were grouped together into one voting block. We made these adjustments to try to make it very clean and easy for the board to understand the pieces that they were voting on, and also to help combine and condense where we could. One thing I want all of you to keep in mind is because of the way the voting blocks were delineated, where we have a couple of voting blocks per section, be very thoughtful about how the sections work together when you are looking to vote between voting blocks. We ask and encourage you all to try to be consistent. If there are multiple voting blocks that cover a similar topic, to be cognizant of that when you go into voting, and vote one way on, if you would like, on both sections that cover the same topic, so we don't end up with gaps or holes or inconsistencies in the code. So just please, please, please be very thoughtful of this as you are as we're voting today, to consider which sections rely on each other. Okay, so that's how the votes will be broken out. Now, for each final vote, there will be an opportunity for the board to give comment. So I will pull up the voting block on a slide, and I'll ask board members to raise their hand if they'd like to speak in favor of that voting block. Board members who would like to do that will raise their hands, and we will go one by one. And each board member has 30 seconds to speak. I will be pretty strong on stopping you all at the 30-second mark, so please try to keep your comments contained to 30 seconds. I'll kind of give you a warning when we hit 30 seconds if you're in the middle of your sentence, so you can wrap up your statement. Board members who would like to speak against the code section will go next. So after we hear all the comments for, I'll ask board members to raise their hand if they'd like to speak against. And again, every board member who raises their hand will have 30 seconds to speak. Now, it is not required that anybody speak on behalf of any code section, but it is an option for any board members if you would like. So once we hear all of the comments, we will conduct the vote. So the vote will go following this process. You all should have open right now, and if you don't, please open it, the final Google form voting Google form open on your computers. It was sent to you all in an email from me this morning. So you'll have the form open. I will ask you to put your first name in the line that says first name. You will put the voting block number in the second question, which will be shown on the slide, so it'll be very easy to follow along. And then you will select yes, no, or abstain to vote on that section. A vote yes, in this case today, means I, board member, approve this code section as written for inclusion in the low energy and carbon code. A no vote today means I, board member, do not approve this code section as written for inclusion in the low energy and carbon code. And an abstain vote today. If you vote abstain, it means I, board member, do not want to submit either a yes or a no vote for this section of the model energy, low energy and carbon code. Now, well, I will get to it in a second. So those are your three vote options. So once you fill in the form, you will click submit at the bottom of the form, and then you'll get brought to a window that looks like this, the picture on the right on my screen, and you are going to click the button submit another response. This will bring you back to the form that will be blank for you to fill in again for our next voting section. Okay, tallying the votes. So when I get to the voting part of the meeting, I'm going to split share my screen. So you'll have the slides on one half and you will have the results spreadsheet on the second half. As you all submit your votes, they will populate automatically in the right-hand side of my screen. You will see every single board member's name, their vote, the voting block and their vote. And our team on the back end will be pulling an automatic equation into the sheet to tally automatically how many yes votes, how many no votes, and how many abstain votes we receive from the Google form. After all the Google form votes are submitted, we will allow for verbal voting. So I know that there's one board member today that will be verbal voting, and I will ask at the end of this session if there's anybody else who would like to verbal vote. After Google form votes are submitted, we will go through the verbal votes one board member at a time. So I will call on each of the board members verbal voting, ask them to unmute and share their vote. The Lotus team will capture that in our spreadsheet. And once we verify that all of the votes have been received, we will understand if that section passed or not. And I will announce the results of the vote. Adam, I'm going to pause here and just quickly check with you. Are we at 20 board members or are we at 21 today? Or 19?
As of this moment, we are currently at 19. I've emailed those who are not here, so hopefully that they will get on. But so that means that as of now, with 19 board members in attendance, that the 2/3 threshold is 13 votes out of 19.
Okay, thank you, Adam. So any section will need as of right now, 13 votes in order to be approved. If we have 20 or 21 board members, depending on if our board members join, in either of those cases, the final approval number will jump to 14 votes, yes votes, in order to include it in the low energy and carbon code. So this is a quick look at what my screen will look like. You'll see all the votes come in, and you'll see down here in the corner the total votes. We'll see the total votes, the total yes, no, and abstain. So we will know one by one if these sections pass or fail. Last note, just talked about this. Each section must receive 2/3 of the total votes to be cast and to be included in the low energy and carbon code. So if all our board members are present when we start voting today, that will be 14 votes needed. If there are, well, and we'll confirm the total and final number of board members voting as we jump into voting today. Okay. That is the end of my process overview slide. So I will happily take any questions from the board.
Can I interject? Sorry, before we do that.
Absolutely.
Just noting that David, I don't know if you want to say what you sent to me, but just clarifying our interpretation of the statute. So please go ahead if you want to say that out loud.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. I was just chiming in on your all calculation of what it takes to pass an element of the code. I believe the statute, I'm looking for it right now, but from memory, I believe the statute says 2/3 of the board needs to approve something for it to become part of the code, not 2/3 of board members present. So I'm scrambling to try to find that language, but Adam and Kim, I'm wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I think my understanding had been that it was 2/3 of those voting. But if we can find the statutory language just to verify that.
Yeah, I'm looking for that right now.
For what it's worth, my memory matches David's.
Okay. All right.
Well,
as does mine.
While you're looking that up, why don't we take some questions and then we'll circle back to you before we start our voting test. So Tim, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, thank you. A question in relation to a vote to abstain. So that is a counted vote, correct?
Correct.
And essentially it would be the same as a no vote, because it wouldn't be yes or no, but it's not a yes. Would that be correct?
I think that's right, Tim, although I will say that given that if we are interpreting the statute as requiring 14 votes, regardless of how many board members are present, then abstain, but that doesn't really matter. It just means you have to get to 14 yes in order to approve anything, period.
Thank you.
Regardless of how many votes are cast.
Thank you, Tim. Jesse, did you have a question or was that question answered? Awesome. Okay. So the next question I want to ask folks is, Aaron, I've got you down for verbal voting today. Are there any other board members who are having trouble with the Google form or would prefer to vote verbally today? If so, please raise your hand. Okay. Aaron, it might just be you. So once we get all the Google forms in, I will call on you to cast your vote, and we will log it in the spreadsheet.
So Kim, I reviewed the statutory language, and Mo, thank you for sharing that again as well. I think I agree with David. So I think it'll require 14 votes regardless of how many votes.
I think that's right. I just found the language in the statute, and I think it's pretty clear. It says 2/3 of the members.
Yeah, so I think that's correct. So we'll do 14 votes required for 14 yes votes required for anything to be approved.
Okay.
Thanks,
awesome.
everyone.
Thank you guys for clarifying that. Perfect. Any questions from the board on 14 votes, 14 yes votes needed to pass any section? Okay. I'm not seeing any hands. So what we are going to do next is test out our vote. So I'm going to stop sharing and reshare my entire screen. Here we go. Okay. So we are going to do a test vote, and we are going to do 2 test votes to make sure that everybody feels very comfortable, the votes are flowing in, and everyone is seeing how this Google form voting process will work. Kim, I see your hand. I'll go to you first.
Just a quick question. And I'm going to keep my screen off today. I'm pretty sick. Sorry about that. But if somebody that is not present currently is to join the meeting, say partway in, and they haven't had the introductory training, will you pause to give them at least some sort of quick instruction so that they know how to vote accordingly?
Happy to do that. And Adam, do we know, I think it's Kate, and who else is missing today?
James is the other one missing.
James. Okay. Yes. So so Kate, I believe, was on the board last time, so she should know. But yes, either way, we will pause. So Adam, Allie, Molly, Claire, so you guys are, keep an eye on things. If you can check and make sure when one of those folks jumps in, we'll do a quick pause and reset on the rules. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Kim. Alrighty, so hopefully you all have your Google form open. So I am going to ask you all to put, we're gonna walk through the test. So with the form, please add your first name to the first line. And note, we just need your first name. You can put your full name if you'd like, but we just need your first one. The next thing I'm gonna have you guys do is write the number 1 in the Google form. So all of the slides will say voting block in big letters and then a number. You do not need to type out voting block every time. You just need to do 1. And I'll actually ask you guys for this one, if you want to put 1 in test after the number 1, that way we are ultra clear as we jump in that these votes were test votes. And then you'll select yes, no, or abstain, and then you'll click submit. It does not matter what you select at this time. All right, and as you guys can see, I might have to zoom out here to make sure I'm capturing everybody. All of the votes are coming in. So Claire, Allie, Molly, I will have you guys jump up with the voting count. Okay, and Allie, if you want to add the line for the verbal vote, and then we'll practice test with Aaron's. Okay, and then now that we have 18 votes in, which is the total number of board members voting in the form, I will have Aaron ask you to unmute, share your vote.
Yes.
Amazing, thank you. Okay. So, as you guys can see, all of the votes are in. I don't know why the formatting is being funky. Claire, Molly, could you help me troubleshoot why this is not capturing things right? But the equations have captured everything correctly. So we have 19 total votes submitted, 15 yes, 1 no, 3 abstain. That means that this amendment would pass with 15 votes, this test amendment. Okay, now if you all can hit submit another response, we're going to do it one more time. There we go. And for this one, we will go to voting block 2. So I'll have you guys add your name, add test 2 into this, and then select your answer, yes, no, or abstain. I will scroll down to start showing those coming in. For the board's awareness, we are drawing these black lines to delineate which is a new vote versus an old vote. Obviously, this number will also dictate that, but that black line will be an easy visual cue for you to show where the next vote started. All right. And Aaron, I'll have you unmute and do your vote.
Abstain.
Great, thank you. Perfect. All righty, so we have 8 yes votes, 7 no votes, 4 abstains. That's a total of 19 votes. This test amendment would not pass. Does that feel good to everybody? Are there any questions or issues that you experienced going through that? Let me see if I can make it a little bigger for you guys to see. There we go. Before we jump into the official voting. Okay. I'm seeing no hands, We will take it slow. We do not want folks to feel rushed. The only thing I will ask of everybody is if you've read the code section and you're like, I know which way I'm voting, I've got it down. I would ask that you please hold on submitting your votes until all board members have had their chance to raise their hand, speak for the code, raise their hand, speak against the code. So please do not submit your form until I have given the green light to do so. That will just help our team manage and keep this form clean on our side. Okay, so I'm going to start us off here. And let me get through all my, so we have about 90-ish sections that we'll be voting on. Like I said, we are going to get as far as we can today. And we've got 2 hours on Friday to wrap up if needed. Just for a bit of perspective, when we did the model electric and solar ready code, we had about 150 sections and we got it done in just over 2 hours. So that's rough time estimate. We'll see how it shakes out today based on comments. But we will go ahead and get started. Okay, so voting block 1 is voting to adopt the 2024 IECC as the base of this code. So board members, if any board member would like to speak for this amendment or voting block, excuse me, please raise your hand. Okay, I see no hands. Any board members that would like to speak against this voting block, please raise your hand. Okay, I see no hands. All right, board members can go ahead and cast their vote. Okay, and I have 18 form votes. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, so that amendment voting block passes 19 yes votes. Thank you, everybody. All right, so now we're going to jump into the commercial code, chapter 1. So this is voting block 2, amending section C105.2. If there are any board members who would like to speak for this amendment, please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, are there any board members that would like to speak against this amendment? Please raise your hand. Jess?
Kim, I'm just confused. This doesn't match the voting block document you sent out.
Well, that's confusing because it should. Let me check 1 second. I've got the voting block document open right here.
Yeah, C105.2 is voting block number 2 in the document, Jess.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I see it as voting. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was looking at the comments wrong. I apologize.
No problem.
It's
Do not
numbered
worry.
1 in the Word doc, but it's voting block 2.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that is a bit confusing. You will see that happens on several amendments. So to orient you to the slide, we've got the voting block at the top. We have the comment from Adam's voting block from the voting block document as the subheader, and then the numbered amendment follows that. So this is amendment 1 in the commercial code, voting block 2.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sorry for that confusion. It's just going to happen in a few places because votes happen in that way. So
Yep, it was tricky to figure out how to navigate all of these together. So thank you, Jess, for that question. If other questions come up, please don't hesitate to raise your hand and ask. Okay, I didn't see any hands for or against this amendment, so we'll go ahead and ask board members to cast their votes. All right, and Aaron, what would you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, wonderful. So this amendment passes with 19 yes votes. Thank you, board. We will move on to voting block 3, which is amending section C107.2.2. Would any board members like to speak in favor of this amendment? Okay, would any board members like to speak against this amendment? Okay, seeing no hands, board members may cast their votes. I'm waiting on, there we go. Okay, and Aaron, verbal vote?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, wonderful. So this section passes with 17 yes votes. Thanks, everybody. On to voting block 4. This is to add new section C111. Would any board members like to speak in favor of this amendment? Seeing no hands, would any board members like to speak against this amendment? Seeing no hands, board members can cast their votes. All right, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, this voting block passes with 19 yes votes. We'll go on to Commercial Code Chapter 2 amendments. So voting block 5 is adding the new definitions to the commercial code. Would any board members like to speak in favor of this voting block? Please raise your hand. Okay, would any board members like to speak against this voting block? Please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, board members may cast their votes. All right, Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful. This voting block passes with 19 votes. All right, moving on to Commercial Code Chapter 4, and we are going to start Chapter 4 in Section C401. So this is for voting block 6, which includes amendments 5, 6, and 7 in the commercial section, establishing commercial compliance options and requirements. Would any board members like to speak against this, or excuse me, for this section? Please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, would any board members like to speak against this section? Andrew, you have 30 seconds.
I just wanted to take 10, 15 seconds, look back at each section before voting. Thank you.
Absolutely, Andrew. I will we'll give a moment here for everybody to take a look and make sure that they're fully familiar with the section before voting.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I can speak to the ones where we have multiple amendments considered in a single voting block here. These are all related to specifically what compliance paths are allowed. So it's kind of, we made amendments to all 3 of these areas based on what the board agreed to with compliance pathway options. So that is why they're all here in one block.
Thank you, Adam. Okay. For board members who are ready to go, you may submit your votes, and we take your time if you're still looking through these sections, and we'll make sure we have all votes before we move on.
Looks like we had one vote. A little weird, Kim. Has everyone voted the way they plan to? Okay. Kim, maybe we want to delete that row, and if it brings us down to 17, we'll make sure that someone votes. Okay, so it looks like we are missing one vote. So if someone casts their vote and doesn't see their name on the screen, can you please cast it again? Okay, looks like we're good now.
sorry, I was muted. Aaron, verbal vote.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful. So this section passes with 17 yes, excuse me, this voting block passes with 17 yes votes. All righty. Moving on to Chapter 4, Section C402. Our first voting block here is voting block 7 to delete Section C402.1.2.1.8, mechanical equipment penetrations. Would any board members like to speak for this voting block? Seeing no hands, would any board members like to speak against this voting block?
I would.
Okay, go for it, Will.
It seems like walls with a lot of penetrations from mechanical equipment would have less insulating value than walls without it. And in the IACC development process, it was agreed that because of that potential for energy losses, that this section would be in there. So this is one where it doesn't actually make sense to me to strike that section.
Thank you, Will. Okay, seeing no other hands, we will go ahead and, oh, Carolyn? Go for it.
Yeah, I realize we're speaking against and for, but if anybody wants to now speak for, to explain why it was deleted in response to Will's, can we do that briefly?
I think that would be fine. If there is a board member willing, is there a board member willing to speak? Elizabeth?
Yeah, I'd be glad to speak in favor of this. This amendment, or I should say the original code language would really have penalized unitary heat pump equipment. And that can be difficult to plan around when projects are still early in design. That tends to penalize affordable housing projects the most, which is why I think I had proposed deleting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, I see no other hands from the board. So thank you guys for your comments. Board members may go ahead and cast their votes for voting block 7. Okay, and Aaron, I will turn it to you.
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, so voting block 7 passes with 15 yes votes. We will move on to voting block 8. Voting block 8 is our amendments to section C402.1.3.3 and related new table C402.1.3.3 for suspended ceilings. Would any board members like to speak in favor of this amendment? Please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, would any board members like to speak against this voting block? Please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, board members can go ahead and cast their votes when they're ready. Okay, and Aaron, I will turn it to you.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, that section passes with 19 yes votes. Thank you, everybody. All right. Oh, apologies, guys. That was the table we added in voting block 8. Okay, voting block 9 is amending C402.6.1.1 and correcting a mistake in C402.6.1.2. Would any board members like to speak in favor of this amendment? Seeing no hands, would any board members like to speak against this amendment? Seeing no hands, board members can cast their votes when they're ready. All right, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, voting block 9 passes with 19 votes. Thank you, everybody. Okay, on to voting block 10. Voting block 10 is to amend C 402.6.2.3. Would any board members like to speak in favor of this voting block? Seeing no hands, would any board members like to speak against this voting block? Andrew, you have 30 seconds.
I support the concept and intent. I'm still struggling with the access for inspection and repair and how broad that may attempted to be enforced and what it means. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Carolyn, I'll turn it to you.
Sorry, bad button.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Andrew. And seeing no other hands, we can move to vote when board members are ready. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. Reading my mind. Amazing. Okay, so voting block 10 passes with 18 yes votes. Thank you all. All right, we're moving now into Chapter 4 of the Commercial Code, Section C403. Voting block 11 is amending C403.4.1.1, heat pump supplementary heat. Are there any board members who would like to speak for this amendment? Please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, would any board members like to speak against this amendment? Tim, I'll turn it to you for 30 seconds.
Thank you. In my opinion, adding these two is increasing the amount of area or the amount of items that the IECC would be covering and therefore not allowed by the state legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Seeing no other hands, I'll invite board members to submit their votes when they're ready. Okay, Aaron?
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, so this section did not receive 13 yes votes and therefore will not make it into the low energy and carbon code per this final voting.
Clarified, did not receive 14 yes votes.
Oh, what did I say? 13? Sorry.
13. Just making sure it's clear.
Did not receive 14 yes votes. Thank you for catching that out. All right, we will move on to voting block 12. And there's two slides here with code language, so I'll roll through both of them. Voting block 12 is adding new section C403.4.6, demand response. And as you can see, there's the first section of the code. And here is the last bit of that section. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of this voting block? Please raise your hand.
You go back to the prior slide.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Ron.
Thank you.
Give one more moment for board members to raise their hand to speak for this amendment if they would like. Okay, seeing no hands, are there any board members who would like to speak against this voting block? Seeing no hands, board members can go ahead and submit your votes when you're ready. Okay, Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so voting block 12 passes with 17 yes votes. Awesome. All right, on to voting block 13, which is amending C403.5. Would any board members like to speak in favor of this voting block? Please raise your hand. Elizabeth, go for it.
Yeah, I know this looks like it is lessening the requirements by changing the capacity for economizers, but this actually allows for more efficiency because the a heat pump would achieve greater savings than in this particular format. Hopefully I explained that. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Seeing no other hands to speak for, would any board members like to speak against this voting block? Okay, seeing no hands, board members may cast their votes as they're ready. Okay, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, wonderful. Voting block 13 passes with 18 yes votes. All right, moving on to voting block 14. This is amending C403.13.3.1, protection of piping insulation. Are there any board members who would like to speak on behalf of this voting block? Seeing no hands, are there any board members who would like to vote, or excuse me, speak against this voting block? Tim, I see your hand. I'll go to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I appreciate the intent, but from an enforceability standpoint, this would be virtually impossible. And the reason I say that is that we would have to be asking for the specifications for the proposed paint product through the plan review, and most of the time they don't even have that selected. And as an inspector at the end, there would be no way to figure out if it actually complies with this particular added language. And we do paint everywhere on the outside, protecting gas pipe. So I don't think that this is a good addition to the language from an enforceability standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, I see no other board hands raised, so board members can submit their votes as you are ready. All right, and Aaron?
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 19 votes in. We only received 12 yes votes on a voting block 14, so this voting block does not pass. Thank you, guys. Kristen?
Could I just say a word to encourage my fellow board members to vote yes or no, because an abstain is effectively a no when we require 14 votes to pass provisions. Thanks.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, we will move on now to voting block. Chapter 4, section 404 is our next section, which will be voting block 15. I'm going to set up here. So voting block 15 is to amend C404.8.3. Covers is the section. Would any board members like to speak, raise their hand to speak for this voting block? Please raise your hand. All right, Kim, I see your hand. You can jump in.
Yes, we've had several meeting conversations related to this, so I don't want to repeat what we've already said, but their indoor pools use and require extensive energy use for the mechanical systems of the building, as well as evaporation loss, which then increases that management of that moisture within the building. So it can also lead to degradation of the building if that moisture isn't managed properly. So just from a standpoint of in our dry Colorado environment, I think this makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Carolyn, I'll go to you next.
Yes, I just like to echo what Kim said. I think in our experience, particularly in commercial application, these indoor pools can be quite large and reject or extract substantial amounts of energy from the surrounding environment, as well as reject humidity into that environment, all of which have substantial energy impact on the building itself. And so if we're trying to drive towards net zero, I think we need to address the thermal losses and gains from a pool system.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, if there are any board members who would like to speak against this voting block, please raise your hands. Tim, start with you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the intent. And if that had been done through the IECC code change process for the 24, that'd be perfect. But adding this, you're going to be adding a lot more swimming pools that would be covered, which is not allowed, making it more restrictive through the legislation. And I think it's critical, as we have discussed in some past meetings, that this language matches the pool code language for jurisdictions that adopt both. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, I see no other board member hands raised, so you all may cast your votes as you're ready. Okay, and Aaron?
No.
Thank you. Okay, so we received 10 yes votes for voting block 15, which means voting block 15 does not pass. All right, moving on to voting block 16. This is adding a new section C404.10, demand responsive water heating. Are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of this voting block? Kristen?
I think this is an important provision. It helps Colorado meet its goals and adds flexibility. Thanks.
Thank you, Kristen. Are there any board members who would like to speak against voting block 16? Please raise your hand. Okay, seeing no hands, board members may cast their votes as they're ready. Okay, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, voting block 16 passes with 6 yes votes. Thank you, guys. We will move on to Commercial Code
It's
Chapter
6?
4.
Just clarify, 16.
Oh, what am I saying? Did I say it wrong again?
Said 6.
Was it just Memorial Day weekend or what? I'm sorry, guys. This is not my first meeting of the day. I will dial it in.
We're
6
moving
yes votes.
through these so quickly, like I can't type either, so I'll cut you some slack, Kim.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. I appreciate that. The repetitive nature of this gets me a little tongue-tied. Okay, we're moving to section C405 and voting block 17. So this voting block is to amend C405.2.4, daylight responsive controls. Are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of voting block 17? And Elizabeth, we'll go to you.
This just restores the wattages that are roughly in the 2021 IECC. As a former lighting person, I think this is best practice and just make sure that we're optimizing controls and encouraging lower connected loads. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Are there any board members who would like to speak against voting block 17? Seeing no hands. All right, board members can submit their votes when you're ready. Okay, Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, thanks everybody. Voting block 17 passes with 19 yes votes. All right, moving on to voting block 18. So this is adding a new section C405.2.8 and amending the related section C405.2.8.1. Are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of this voting block? I see no hands. Any board members that would like to speak against this voting block? And I see no hands. Okay, feel free to submit your votes as you're ready. Okay, and Aaron, I'll go to you.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone. So voting block 18 passes with 17 yes votes. On to voting block 19. This is a block to delete C405.12 and C405.12.1, which are automatic receptacle control and automatic receptacle control function. Are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of this voting block? Elizabeth, go for it.
This is one we've dealt with in Boulder and on lead projects, and developers and building owners are always trying to figure out how can they not use this. So my experience is there's no resulting energy savings in these control requirements, and I would rather save people money so that they can use things that are actually effective. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Tim?
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with deleting this section. It's been an enforcement nightmare. As Elizabeth pointed out, there's always ways of trying to circumvent the requirements, and we get a lot of pushback also with a lot of offices having computers plugged in 24/7. So I'd really encourage to vote to take this out.
Thank you, Tim. Would any board members like to speak against voting block 19? Okay, I am seeing no hands, so board members may submit their votes as you're ready. All right, Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, voting block 19 passes with 17 yes votes. Thank you all. All right, moving on to voting block 20. Voting block 20 is to amend section C 405.13, energy monitoring. Would any board members like to speak in favor of voting block 20? Please raise your hand. Okay, seeing no hands, would any board members like to speak against voting block 20? And I am seeing no hands, so you all may submit your votes. All right, Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, voting block 20 passes with a total of 16 yes votes. Thank you, guys. All right. Moving on to voting block 21. This is deleting section C 405.15 and C 405.15.1 through C 405.15.4. This is the renewable energy systems section. Would any board members like to speak in favor of voting block 21? All right. Yeah, Kim, go for it.
All right, just a clarification. We moved this section to the appendix for jurisdictions to optionally adopt. Is that correct?
That's correct. There will be a vote later on Appendix CK, I believe it is, but this would be removing it from the mandatory requirements of the base code.
Thank you, Kim. Good question. Thank you, Adam. All right, seeing no other hands, would any board members like to speak against voting block 21? And I'm seeing no hands, so go ahead and submit your votes. All right, Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everybody. Voting block 21 passes with 17 yes votes. All right, we're cruising. Moving on to Commercial Code Chapter 4, Section C 406. Yeah, Carolyn.
So Kim, I'm wondering if we can build in a very quick break so I can go like refill my water.
Absolutely.
We're going so fast. There's like not even time.
Yes, I do think we have plenty of time. So if board members would appreciate a break, maybe we'll just do that now before we start section C 406. I will ask you guys to come back at like 12:04. How about that? Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Come on back if you can hear me. We will go ahead and keep moving through these votes. I'll give everyone 20 seconds or so to get back, get settled. Make sure your voting form is up and ready to go. Okay, I'm going to assume that most of you are back. Most of you are ready to roll.
Can we just do a show of hands of who's back? Just like we want to make sure we have everybody.
Good call, Adam. Those of you I can see that you were there, so you're good. Tim, did you raise your hand? Did I miss that?
Well, I guess we'll just keep this vote open until until we get the 19 votes that we have.
Okay, I think
Everyone can lower their hands. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks everybody. You guys can keep your hands lower. Tim, I see you. Hi, thanks. All right. Okay, guys. Well, let's get back to it. So, we will continue steady in the voting for the next hour. If Carolyn did, anybody needs a break for any reason, raise your hand. Like I said, we're cruising today, so if we need another quick moment of pause, we're happy to offer that up. Alrighty. So moving into section C406 of the Commercial Code. Voting block 22 is our next one. Voting block 22 is replacing C406.1. Are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of voting block 22? Will, I think your hand was up earlier. Is it still up for this purpose? Okay, thanks, Will. Adam, I'll go to you first.
Not speaking for or against, I just wanted to give a very brief overview as to the C406 voting blocks and why they're lumped together the way they are. Again, so I think folks are very familiar that we reorganized C406 pretty significantly to combine the energy efficiency and renewable and load management credits, and a lot of the changes throughout these sections. It didn't really make sense to vote on very small pieces of that because they are all essentially related to that reorganization. And then the fuel debiasing piece is also very much intertwined into this section, into C406 as a whole. So I just wanted to remind everybody that and explain a little bit as to why this voting block ended up the way it did, was because all of those changes are very intertwined throughout. So just in case anyone was wondering, that's why.
Thanks, Adam. That's helpful. Tim.
Thank you. I'm in support of this, but I have a question maybe from a staff standpoint. So in item number 2, where it says build out construction, we've made some changes that we're voting on, I think coming up next time or two, to change build out to first time tenant finish. Rather than vote this down, is it possible that I know we've done this through the ICC code change process where staff can just change that to match other changes. So that would be my hope here.
Yeah, I think, Tim, we can probably do that. Maybe what I would ask is, does any board member, so if everyone's familiar, the words build out had been changed to be aligned with the first tenant finish definition in the section relating to first tenant finishes. And I think we neglected to modify this one on accident. So I just want to ask if anyone would have an objection to, if this section gets approved, just making sure it aligns with that other section. All right, I'm not seeing any. So Tim, I'm going to say that that's probably an errata that we can fix.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks, Adam. Okay, are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 22? Please raise your hand. All right, I'm seeing no hands. So board members, you may submit your votes for voting block 22. Okay, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, So voting block 22 passes with 17 yes votes. Thank you, everybody. All right, voting block 23 includes several of the amendments within the document. So this is replacing C406.1.1, deleting C406.1.2, amending C406.2, and replacing the tables in C406.2.1 through C406.2.9. The page numbers, as you can see, for all of these amendments are related amendments are listed on the slide. Are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of voting block 23? Please raise your hand. Jess.
I just have a question. I noticed there are still some TBDs in the table, and I'm curious what the plan is for those.
Yeah, so the TBDs are just credit values that have yet to be calculated. So they have nothing to do with whether or not you want to include the credit. It's just a matter of how much those credits will be valued at. We are working with PNNL and Group 14 to make sure that those get calculated in line with how all the other credits were calculated in the text. So just noting that those will be calculated before the code is published. The board we would not ask the board to weigh in on what those credits should be valued at anyway, just because those credits were calculated with a particular methodology. But yeah, those will be filled in. And I guess, Kristen, I don't know if you were going to address, there was one credit, and I think you might be talking about the refrigerant credit. Is that what you were going to mention?
No, it's actually just going to overall encourage people to vote yes on this. I think the board put a lot of work and a lot of thought into it, and we had legal guidance throughout the process to assure that what we were doing here could be incorporated, and I think I'm comfortable with the end result.
And just noting, Jess, as the one exception to the credit calculations was the refrigerant credit that was added, because refrigerant credits are based on emissions and not energy savings. And so there was a flat credit provided across the board for refrigerants rather than trying to do some sort of emissions energy alignment piece. So just noting that as well.
Thank you, Adam. We'll go to Carolyn and then we'll go to Kevin.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to also speak in favor of this amendment, and in particular, I'm really focusing in on the energy efficiency improvements components and not allowing for solar to be substituted for good efficiency within our buildings, especially in the context of Colorado, which is going to be a largely renewable grid. So I support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
And I lowered my hand. I was just offering support as well, but I don't need to elaborate further.
Thank you, Kevin. Wonderful. Are there any board members who would like to speak against voting block 23? Please raise your hand. Okay, I am seeing no hands, so you guys may cast your votes. All right, and Aaron?
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everybody. So voting block 23 passes with 16 yes votes. All right, we're going to move on to voting block 24. This is amending C406.2.2, and let me just quickly check. Just kidding. That is just making sure it wasn't on two slides. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of this voting block? Please raise your hand. Adam.
Again, I'm not at all speaking in favor or against of anything, but just wanted to flag for folks that this is just more administrative for if the board adopts the new credits that will be part of future voting blocks, then this is needed in order to reference that. If the board rejects those, then we will have to take these references out of this section anyway. So just noting that these are tied to other additional credits that will be voted on in the next couple of votes.
Thanks, Adam. And Kevin.
Yeah, I'll just quickly express support for this. I think this is the one that was tied to the evaporative cooling as an add for credit.
The evaporative cooling and then the fuel debiasing credit for the heat pumps, the fuel neutral.
Oh, okay. I'm mistaken. Thanks.
It's both credits are listed here, H06 and H07.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right. Are there any board members who would like to speak against voting block 24? Please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, you guys can cast your votes. Okay, Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, voting block 24 passes with 19 yes votes. Thanks, everybody. All right, we'll move on to voting block 25. This is adding a new section, C406.2.2.6, for evaporative cooling. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of this voting block? Please raise your hand. Okay. Are there any board members that would like to speak against this voting block? Please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, you guys can submit your votes. All right, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Perfect. All right, so that's 19 yes votes for voting block 25. So voting block 25 passes. All right, our next voting block is adding new section C406.2.2.7, high efficiency heating equipment credit. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 26? I'm seeing no hands, so any board members that would like to speak against this voting block? And no hands, so you guys can submit your votes. All right, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, thanks everybody. That's 19 yes votes for voting block 26, so this amendment passes. All right, our next voting block is section C406.2.7, adding a new section for refrigerator doors. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of this voting block? Seeing no hands, any board members that would wish to speak against this voting block? And I see no hands. Okay, board members may submit their votes. Okay, and I'll go to you, Aaron.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so we have 18 yes votes for voting block 27. So this voting block passes. All righty, voting block 28. This is renumbering and amending C406.3.1, renewable energy. Are there any board members or maybe any board members that would like to speak in favor of this amendment? Seeing no hands, any board members that would like to speak against this amendment? Okay, I'm seeing no hands. So board members may submit their votes. Okay, and Aaron?
Abstain.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So voting block 28 received 17 yes votes. So this voting block passes. All right, moving on to voting block 29. This is renumbering section C406.3.2 through C406.3.8 to be under C406.2 versus C406.3. Any board members, Adam, any administrative notes on this one?
Just the only thing is that the contents of these sections are not changing. It's just part of the merger of the energy efficiency and renewable and load management credits. So there will only be a C406.2 now. And so all of these just extra credits are being renumbered under C406.2 instead of where they were before.
Thanks, Adam. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of this voting block? Okay, seeing no hands. Anyone who would like to speak against this voting block? And I see no hands. So board members may submit their votes. All right, thanks everyone. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. So with that, we ended with 19 yes votes for voting block 29. So that section passes. Thanks, everybody. All right, moving into voting block 30. This is adding a new section C406.2.16 refrigerants. Are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of voting block 30? Kristen?
Keep it brief. I encourage my fellow board members to vote yes.
Thank you, Kristen. Are there any board members who would like to speak against voting block 30? All right, I see no hands, so go ahead and cast your votes. And Aaron?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, wonderful. So voting block 30 passes with 19 yes votes. And we will move to voting block 31. This is deleting C406.3, except for the sections that were renumbered. So this goes back to that comment that Adam just shared a few votes ago. Are there any board members that would like to speak on behalf of voting block 31? I see no hands. Any board members that would like to speak against voting block 31? I see no hands. All right, board members, you may submit your votes. And Aaron, I'll go to you.
Abstain.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, so voting block 31 passes with 17 yes votes. Thank you, guys. All right, that was C406. Nice job, everybody. Moving into section C407. Adam, I'm just gonna ask you for some administrative notes, so go for it.
Sure. Can you just, go to that one? So essentially C407 is going to be 3 different votes for this one amendment, which is just basically replacing the previous C407 with the different amendments. So first voting block relates to just adopting ASHRAE 90.1 Appendix G as modified for site energy as kind of the basis with for C407 now, and then the next vote will be relating to adopting the site energy reduction pathway version of pathway of the ASHRAE 90.1 method, and then the third vote will be related to adding the new fixed site energy use intensity pathway option. So the first one is using 90.1 Appendix G as the basis. Second one is site energy use reduction pathway, which is the one that's aligned with, basically included already in Appendix G, but as modified for site energy. Third one is the new fixed site EUI targets. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Adam. Any questions for Adam before we continue to our voting? All right, I see no hands. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 32? Please raise your hand. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I'll just speak in favor of this one as well as the next one. There's a lot of work and a lot of thought put into these 2 amendments. I'm really happy with how they ended up. I think they achieved the fuel debiasing such that a BTU is a BTU is a BTU forever and ever, which makes it much easier for teams to play in. Because a compliant building today will also be a compliant building even if energy costs change. That should make it easier and more consistent for everyone, as well as achieving our sustainability goals, no matter what your fuel source. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Kristen?
I'm also in favor of this for many of the same reasons just articulated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Kevin?
Likewise, the support of this is consistent with a great deal of public comment.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 32? Please raise your hand. All right, I am seeing no hands, so board members, feel free to cast your votes when you're ready. Awesome. And Aaron?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, so that is 17 yes votes for voting block 32, so that passes. Thank you all. Moving on to voting block 33. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 33? Seeing no hands, anyone that would like to speak against voting block 33? Seeing no hands. All right, when you're ready, feel free to submit your votes. And Aaron.
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, so that is 17 yes votes for voting block 33. Thank you all. We will move on to voting block 34, the fixed EUI target performance pathway option. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 34? Okay, any board members that would like to speak against voting block 34? All right, no hands, so board members may cast their votes. All right, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so that is 17 yes votes for voting block 34, which means it passes. Thank you, guys. And just like that, we're on to section C410. All right, Adam, do you want a quick admin note on this slide?
Sure, yeah. So we decided that we're going to do a singular vote, just like we did with the 2024 IACC, to add in all of the electric, solar, and EV ready requirements from the electric and solar ready code into the low energy and carbon code. And then, of course, pending all of the then amendments to those requirements that we will vote on here in the future in these upcoming votes. But just wanted to note that this is just a vote to add them in to start, and then we'll vote on all the amendments to that language consecutively.
Thank you, Adam. Would any board members like to speak in favor of voting block 35? Okay, would anybody like to speak against voting block 35? All righty, you guys may cast your votes. All right, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, voting block 35 passes with 19 yes votes. Thank you all. All right, so looking specifically for voting block 36 at section C410.3.2.1.1, electrical sizing and physical space requirements. Are there any board members that would like to speak on behalf of voting block 36? Seeing no hands, are there any board members that would like to speak on against voting block 36? Okay, I see no hands. Board members may submit their votes. Wonderful. Aaron?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, so that brings us to a total of 19 yes votes for voting block 36. Thanks, everybody. Moving on to voting block 37. This is amending section C410.3.2.1, excuse me, 3.2.2.1, electrical sizing and physical space requirements. Are there any board members that would like to speak on behalf of voting block 37? Oh, Adam, yes.
I just want to note, if anyone's wondering, like, that this looks oddly similar to the vote we just took, just noting that one was for the small commercial buildings and all multifamily. This one is for large commercial buildings. So just noting we had to do it twice because there were amendments twice, but that's why it's essentially a repeat of the same vote, but for the large commercial buildings.
Thanks for that clarification, Adam. Right, were there any board members that would like to speak in favor? All right, I see no hands. Any board members that would like to speak against? And I see no hands, so board members may submit their votes. And Aaron?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, so voting block 37 passes with 19 votes. Thank you, guys. On to voting block 38. This is amending C4 10.4.2.2 for the solar ready zone area. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 38? Carolyn.
Yes, thank you. So this was an amendment I had proposed based on a lot of stakeholder engagement that we had done before Boulder updated ours. And so I feel this is a good amendment to make sure that there is space that's appropriate for solar set aside and in a way that's going to be usable. So thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. All right, are there any board members who would like to speak against voting block 38? And I don't see any hands, so you guys may cast your votes. Right, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, so voting block 38 passes with a total of 18 yes votes. Thank you all. All right. And we will move on to voting block 39. This is amending table C4 10.5.2.1 for the EV power transfer infrastructure requirements. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 39? Tim, go to you.
Yeah, thank you. I was the one that can help shepherd this one through based on real situations that we've dealt with these small parking lots where it said 10 or less before. And this is going to be a really, I think, beneficial change to these small projects with small parking lots. I'm encouraged to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 39? And I see no hands. So go ahead and cast your votes. And Aaron?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, so that voting block 39 passes with 18 yes votes. Thank you all. And we'll move on to voting block 40. This is amending the space substitution section and EV infrastructure sections to include allowance for level 1 charging for multifamily buildings. Are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of voting block 40? All right, I see no hands. Board members, any board members that would like to speak against voting block 40?
Hey, could I just ask a question on this one?
Sure.
I know that the multi-family EV charging requirements have been incorporated into the state electrical code. So with this change, will there now be a discrepancy between the energy code and the electrical code?
For a very short time, there will. So the statute does require the electrical board to update their EV, solar, and electric ready requirements based on updates we make to them within 90 days.
Okay.
So they will update theirs, but there will be a period of time where there will be a brief discrepancy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Thanks, Adam. All right, I think I asked about 4 comments. Anyone that would like to speak against voting block 40, please raise your hand. Okay, I see no hands. Board members may submit their votes. All right, and Aaron, I'll go to you.
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. Perfect. So voting block 40 passes with 19 yes votes. Thank you, guys. And we will move to voting block 41. This is adding a new section to C4 10.5.2.9 as follows. So you guys can see on the screen. Are there any board members who would like to speak against voting block 41? Well, I usually do that in the opposite order, but we'll keep it this way for this voting block. Anyone speaking for voting block 41? All right, I saw no hands for either, so board members can go ahead and submit their votes. Okay, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. And Carolyn, I think I see that maybe 51 typed in. Are you okay if I change this to 41?
Yes, please, I'm at 41.
Okay, perfect.
Apparently, I was getting really excited about our progress.
Awesome. Okay, thanks everybody. And now we are on to chapter 5 of the commercial code. There's this section and the appendices section left on commercial before we roll into residential. So starting with voting block 42, this is amending C503.6. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 42? All right, I see no hands. Are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 42? No hands here either. So board members may submit their votes. And Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, so voting block 42 passes with 17 yes votes. Thanks, everybody. And now on to the commercial code appendices. So voting block 43 is deleting the appendices that are incorporated into the base code. So there's appendix CI, CB, CG, and CH. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 43? Adam? Admin note?
Not so much an admin note. I know there's been a couple of questions. The purpose for deleting these, because they were included in the base code, is just to make the code at the end of the day shorter, easier, not confusing between appendices and base code requirements. But there have been some public questions just asked in general about whether or not a jurisdiction could adopt language out of these, even if they're removed from our code, if they wanted to use that in place of the base code requirements for solar, electric, or EV ready. And the answer is, as long as it's as or more stringent than what we require in our code, yes. Whether it's in our code or not, they could adopt those. So just because these may be stricken from our code for the sake of length and simplicity, just note that a jurisdiction in theory could adopt language from them, from the 2024 IECC, if it's equally or more stringent and they want to, they like that language better, in case anyone had any questions about that.
Thanks, Adam. Any questions for Adam on that? Okay. I asked if board members wanted to speak for voting block 43, and I saw no hands. So are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 43? All right, I see no hands. Board members may submit their votes. Right, and Aaron?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. Voting block 43 passes with 19 yes votes. Thanks, everybody. All right, voting block 44 is adding the new appendix CK, renewable energy systems. And just a recall, this is the appendix or the language move that Kim Wheels had asked about a bit earlier in our meeting. Any board members that would like to speak on behalf of voting block 44? Please raise your hand. Okay, see no hands. Would anybody like to speak against voting block 44? All right, I see no hands, so you may submit your votes. And I'll go to Aaron.
Abstain.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, so that is a total of 17 yes votes for voting block 44, which means this block passes. Excuse me. We did it, everybody. Commercial code, check. Amazing work. Very exciting. So we'll do a couple more here in the residential code. Like I said, let's see, we were just at 44, so we have a little bit less than half of our amendments left to get through. So we'll get as far as we can here, a couple more votes, and then we'll wrap for today. Very exciting. Okay, our next amendment is, or excuse me, voting block is voting block 45. This amends our 105.2. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 45? All right, I see no hands. Would anybody like to speak against voting block 45? And I see no hands. So you guys can submit your votes. All right, Aaron?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. All righty. So voting block 45 passes with 19 yes votes. Thank you, everybody. On to chapter 2 of the residential code. So for voting block 46, we are going to be adding new residential definitions that you can see listed on the slide. Are there any board members that would like to speak in support of voting block 46? Seeing no hands, would anybody like to speak against voting block 46? Seeing no hands. Go ahead and submit your votes. All right, thanks everybody. And Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, voting block 46 passes with a total of 19 yes votes. Thanks everybody. And just like this, we're in chapter 4 of the residential code. So section R401, where we'll start. All right, voting block 47 is amending R401.2 for home size. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of this voting block? Please raise your hand. All right, Kim, I'll start with you.
We have had extensive conversations and debates around this entire topic. I really appreciate Lotus sending out the reports that you did initially related to home size. And upon review of those, hopefully others will agree. I think that we landed upon the correct size blocking, size allocations for the state. And I'm going to stop there to save my voice, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Kevin?
I'd also just like to vote support for this measure. It's been thoughtfully considered, a lot of good feedback, and I feel like we did, especially with the addition of the other prescriptive compliance pathways, gave a really good reason to proceed with this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. And Will?
Yeah, I'd also like to support this one. I think that we've had extensive and thoughtful discussion on it. And, I think that it very appropriately helps to address our twin missions of maximizing carbon reduction and at the same time making sure that we are maintaining housing affordability. And by focusing in on sort of the stronger requirements for the homes that have very high energy use, but are also very expensive and unlikely to be an important element of housing affordability, I think we are striking the appropriate balance.
Thanks, Will. And Tim?
Yeah, thank you. And for clarity for the board, I pose this question just to get clarity from Adam over the weekend, that with the definition of conditioned floor area, that is including, after a bunch of different discussions we had and votes, that would include a below grade. So like if you were doing a basement finish, or not a basement finish, but an unfinished basement that's conditioned, that's going to be included. I think that's just important just to make sure the board remembers that when they're doing their vote, which I'm in full support of including all that area. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Adam, any notes to add on this?
Not speaking for or against, I just wanted to share that, as part of this process, CEO has done a lot of presentations to groups representing a wide variety of different interests, and just wanted to recognize that there were a lot of folks in the public, pretty much universal agreement that uh, home size was an important thing to address, and that 5,000 square feet was quite a bit larger than what most people would quantify as a small home. And so I think to the points that Carolyn and others have made throughout this process, I just wanted to note that a lot of the stakeholder engagement and meetings and feedback sessions that the Energy Office has done, trying to feed into this process and get you all information and perspectives that you can use to make these decisions, that those were pretty universal perspectives shared. And so I just wanted to share that all with you.
Thanks, Adam. And I'll go to Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you. And just on this particular change, I wanted to nuance it that this does not explicitly address the I'll call it the mid-size block of the 5,000 to 7,500, but explicitly just addresses our inclusion of Appendix RC for the over 7,500 square foot homes. So just wanted to make that nuance. So for those who I know have concern about the mid-size of 5,000 to 7,500, just want to make that distinction as you're thinking about your voting. This is just establishing the compliance pathway that would apply to those respective home sizes. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Carolyn. All right, so I see no more hands for speaking on behalf of voting block 47. Are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 47? Please raise your hand. Okay, I see no hands, so board members may go ahead and cast their votes. And Aaron?
Abstain.
Thanks, Aaron.
I just wanted to know that James is with us now. I just saw James pop on. Thank you, James, for joining.
Yeah, no problem.
So Kim, given the response you gave to Kim Wheels earlier, do we want to just do a quick rundown for James? I think, James, it looks like you might be in your car, so I'm assuming you might want to vote verbally on some of these, but
yeah.
And real quick, do you mind, I need to take a break, and I know we're almost at time, but while we're going through this, I'm gonna step on and be back.
Okay, thanks, Mo. So yeah, we have about 15 minutes left. James, the way that we are rolling through our voting here today is I will show on my screen the voting block number, and if I could fit it on the screen, the text related to that voting block number.
Okay.
All of the voting blocks were outlined in a voting block document that we sent out to the board last week. And so as I pull it up, every board member has an option to either speak for or against one of the voting blocks. So I'll make a call for that. You do not have to speak, but you are welcome to if you'd like. And then after we hear all comments for and against a specific voting block, we will cast a vote. So James, once I get all of the Google form votes submitted, I will do a call for verbal votes. So I'll ask Aaron for his verbal vote. I will ask you for your verbal vote, and then we will move to the next voting block.
Okay.
Any questions, James, on that process?
No, so either I say yes or no.
So you'll say yes, no, or abstain are your three options. A vote yes means that you would like to include that voting block in the low energy and carbon code. A vote no means that you would not like to include that voting block in the low energy and carbon code. And an abstain vote means that you would not like to cast a vote either yes or no for that particular voting block. So those are your three options.
All right, that sounds great.
Great. Thank you, James. Kim, I see your hand.
I just think it's important to point out as well that abstain means that it's not for, so it essentially counts as against in our tallies. So just again clarifying.
Yeah, James, we do need 14 yes votes to approve anything.
Okay.
Just so you're aware.
And I'm pulled over too, so I'm stationary, so I can just do the normal process if that works.
Yeah, sure. So, James, you can either have that Google form up on that I sent out this morning up on your phone and submit votes as we go. If I don't see you submit the vote via the form, I'll just ask you unmute and share your vote.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to check. Mo, have you come back with us? Oh, maybe waiting a quick moment. While we are waiting for Mo to rejoin us, I will pull up the next voting block for you all to see. And Mo, when you get back, if you could just give us a heads up, come on camera or throw your hand up so we know you're there. Awesome. Hello. Okay. All right, everybody. So we will move on to voting block 48. This block is amending R401.2.1 through R401.2.3 and deleting R401.2.4. Adam, do you have any administrative thoughts to share on this one?
Same comments as on the commercial side. This is just establishing the compliance options as we need to make sure they include the electric, solar, and EV ready requirements. And obviously Colorado's not tropical, so I figured we could save a few words in the final code without that.
Thanks, Adam. All right, are there any board members who would like to speak in favor of voting block 48? Please raise your hand. All right, I see no hands. Are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 48? Please raise your hand. And I see no hands, so board members may submit their votes. All right, so Aaron, I will go to you for verbal vote first.
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. And James, I'll go to you next.
Yes.
Thank you, James. All right, just making sure we get all of that logged. Perfect, and the equation still worked. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. So voting block 48 passes with a total of 20 yes votes. All right, we are going to move on to Chapter 4, Section R402. And I'll probably give us maybe 2 more votes, and then we'll pause and we'll pick back up on Friday. All right, so voting block 49 is amending Section R402.1 as seen on the screen. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 49? All right, I see no hands. Anybody that would like to speak against voting block 49? And I see no hands, so you guys may cast your votes. All right, let me get so we can get it all in view. Awesome. Aaron, I'll go to you first.
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. And James, over to you.
Yes.
Thank you, James. Wonderful. All right, so voting block 49 passes with a total of 20 yes votes. We'll move on to voting block 50. So this is amending section R402.2.13, sunroom and heated garage insulation. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 50? Okay, I'm seeing no hands. Are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 50? Well.
Yeah, so slab insulation seems really important for efficiency of spaces, and eliminating the requirement for slab insulation seems like it could result in significant energy losses, especially from heated garages. So this one doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Thanks, Will. And I guess I would offer that if there's a board member that would want to share the rationale behind this for Will, then I would offer that you may jump in. So Kim, I see your hand up.
More of a clarification point. I believe this is for existing sunroom and heating garages, but please clarify if that's not the case.
I believe this is the section for new construction. There are sections where this is addressed later, Kim, in Chapter 5 for existing slabs.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
All right. I see no other hands. So if that is the case, board members may submit their votes for voting block 50. All right. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron. And James?
Yes.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
All right, so voting block 50 received only 13 yes votes, so that is not enough to pass. So voting block 50 fails. All right, and let's see. Okay, we will do one more and then we will call it. So this is voting block 51, amending R4 2.5.1.1 installation. Are there any board members that would like to speak in favor of voting block 51? Please raise your hand. All right. Are there any board members that would like to speak against voting block 51? Please raise your hand. Andrew?
I'm not sure the entirety of the board really understands the impact of this on affordability. There are only certain insulation types that consistently, on a production basis, provide a grade 1, and they do come at a material cost when done on a production basis.
Thank you, Andrew. All right. I see no other hands, so board members may go ahead and, oh, sorry, Jess, I do see your hand. Go for it.
I really appreciate the intention behind this. We hear from our HERS raters all the time the importance of grade 1 insulation, but I am concerned about the statutory requirements of our code and making sure that we are doing something that meets those requirements. And so I am nervous about voting for this because of that.
Thank you, Jess. And Tim?
Yeah, I'm going to mimic Andrew's comments in terms of what we see in the field. We do insulation inspections a lot, and requiring the grade 1, it's going to definitely impact the affordability with the ability to get the proper or more materials, different materials in. I'm sorry. So I'm going to be voting against this one.
Thank you, Tim. And Kim?
Speaking from the HERS rater perspective, as well as what I recently learned about ResNet's direction of aiming to steer away from grade 1, 2, and 3, they're essentially moving toward a pass or fail. And so a lot of the reason for why we brought this forth was to help encourage and require installation to be installed to the manufacturer's instructions, which should be a grade 1 installation, and trying to help encourage and educate about what that is. But given the statutory requirements and the direction that ResNet seems to be heading, and that anything installed to code for per number 1 and 2 here in this should meet grade 1, and that's what should be enforced. I'm going to go with being more concerned about the statutory requirements and not wanting to bring the code under that scrutiny.
Thank you, Kim. And Brad?
I'll make it real quick and just kind of echo what Kim said, but in effect, ResNet is moving toward something that is in place of ResNet grade 1, and that is either properly installed or improperly installed. So one or the other. Anything that falls outside of grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3 would not meet the intent of installed per manufacturer's instructions. So in effect, it would be improperly installed insulation.
Thank you, Brad. All right. I see no more board hands for speaking against. So if board members want to, if they're ready, please submit your votes. All right. And Aaron?
Abstain.
Thank you, Aaron. And James?
No.
Thank you, James. Okay, so voting block 51 received 2 yes votes, which is not enough to pass, so voting block 51 will fail. And it is 12:59, so I'm going to stop sharing. Awesome work today, everybody. I know it is a lot to get through, but we made really great progress today. I'm very grateful for you guys' focus. We will pick this back up at 9 a.m. on Friday, and we will wrap up all of our remaining votes at that time. If you all have any questions or comments for Adam and I in between meetings, please don't hesitate to reach out. But otherwise, happy Tuesday, everybody, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your weeks. We'll see you Friday morning.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Yeah.